Whether you need to protect your home, car, business, or family, huddle up with your independent Encova agent and create a game plan. Encova agents are local. They know your town just as well as you do. The best part? Encova's outstanding roster of products was created with you in mind and can even be customized to fit your unique needs, which means you're calling the plays. Visit Encova.com today to find an agent in your neighborhood. For auto, home, business, and life insurance, you can count on Encova Insurance.
Encova Insurance is focused on building a stronger future for their agents, policyholders, and the communities they serve. Their network of licensed independent agents are always ready for what's next. Encova Insurance, proud sponsor of Ohio State Athletics.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
It's Buckeyes football on 1410 ESPN Radio and 92.9 Jack FM.
All right, welcome in. Justin Kinner with you here, Buckeye postgame action right here on Dayton's radio, home of the Buckeyes, 92.9 Jack FM, 1410 ESPN Radio. For those of you who are new on the 92.9 Jack FM side of things, if you want to give a call into the live postgame, 937-518-1410. Okay, one more time real quick. I know there's noise in the background real quick. 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. Live reaction here is Ohio State. For the first time since 1999 and 2000, they dropped back-to-back games against that team up north. An unbelievable performance by Ohio State, and not in a good way. By the way, I get nervous doing shows like this because I don't know about you guys, but based on social media, a lot of you guys are very passionate and angry in your reactions, right? And that's how I am. I've never been in a position where I've had to crack the mic immediately following an emotional game. And, when Ohio State dominates that team up north for 2 decades plus, for 2 decades, Ohio State has dominated that team up north. Up until now, this is only Michigan's 5th win in 22 years against Ohio State. 5th win. Purdue, up until this point, Michigan just tied Purdue for the most wins against Ohio State in the Big Ten. That is since 2000. That's pretty impressive, right? Or not? I'm not really sure. Look, let's be clear. This is unacceptable. I'm not here to take shots at Michigan. I'm actually going to open up the little portion of the postgame here and say, Michigan, good for you. Good for you. Because I'm getting ripped. And by the way, I'm Justin Kinner. If you want to give us a good Justin Kinner from the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash weekdays on 1410 ESPN Radio. If you can't call in but want to be involved in the conversation, the Justin Kinner Show has a Facebook page. Go follow the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page or the ESPN Dayton Facebook page, and that's where you can jump in on the conversation right there. You could watch the post-game interaction right now. Let's be clear. I'm not here to take shots at Michigan. I'm actually going to say this. Good for you, Michigan. I'm not happy Michigan won, but I've been calling out Michigan for quite some time. I just talked about it. Ohio State's dominated this rivalry for 2 decades. There's a lot of you people on social media who are calling me out because I went on Dayton 24/7 now, went on the Justin Kinner Show with Kev Nash. I did a lot of smack talk in your eyes, even though I think it's common sense to me. Common sense to me is when a team, wins 17 games in 20 years, that is pure domination, right? Pure domination. 17 games in 22 years. That is pure domination. Ohio State's been to 5 national championship games. They have 2 national championships, 11 Big Ten championships, 17 wins against that team up north. Michigan is 1 game away from only winning their 4th Big Ten title in 22 years, getting back to the playoff for only the 2nd time since it started back in 2014, and only the 5th win over Ohio State since 2000, which, again, as I talked about, up until, about an hour ago, they had less wins against Ohio State than Purdue. And your thoughts on Purdue is what? My point exactly. So good for Michigan, because I've been downplaying this rivalry for quite some time. I've acknowledged that it's a rivalry, but I've also downplayed this idea that this is the greatest rivalry in sports because it's so one-sided. You need some kind of competitive balance. But good for that team up north, because they finally decided, Mr. Khaki Pants decided that, hey, maybe we should start winning games in this rivalry. Maybe we should start beating Michigan State. Maybe we should start beating Ohio State. And you know what? No shots taken at them. Harbaugh, it took quite a while, but guess what? They finally figured it out. Took long enough. They're finally doing it. But I'm not here to take shots at Michigan. I am going to defend myself a little bit. I think all of you who are calling me out are kind of morons right now, because if you're going to sit there and call me out for pointing out that Ohio State has dominated this for 2 decades and sitting there and saying, well, the boogeyman that existed in the 90s that dominated this rivalry can come back at any time. Maybe it can come back at any time, but I think when you get to a point where you dominate for 2 decades, you're allowed to be a little cocky at that point. So no, I'm not going to take back anything I've said, because everything I said was factual. Ohio State has been kicking Michigan's, let's see, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on 92.9 Jack FM, but they've been kicking their butt for 2 decades. So Michigan, enjoy this. This is fun. This is great. This sucks for us right now. We're not used to this because, I don't know, it's been 22 years since we've had to find a way to cope with losing to that crap team back-to-back seasons. 1999 and 2000 was the last time that Ohio State lost back-to-back seasons against this team. So I don't feel bad at all for all the smack talk. All of you guys call it smack talk. It's not smack talk. The reality is it was facts. And it's sad. It's so sad that Ohio State dominated so much for 2 decades that Michigan fans mistook trash talk for facts, but the facts were trash talk enough. I don't have to trash talk. I just have to bring up facts. But the fact of the matter is, for the 2nd straight year, that team up north embarrassed Ohio State. And to do it at the shoe is even worse. All season, Buckeye fans, I'm coming at you next, because I've been going at Michigan fans who are calling me out. Now I'm turning my attention to Ohio State fans. Ohio State fans, hear me out. When Ohio State gave up 300 passing yards, when Penn State threw all over them, but Penn State decimated Ohio State's defense not even about 3-4 weeks ago, and I called it out. But, oh, man, it was a gutsy win, right? You Homer Buckeye fans, it's a gutsy win by Ohio State. They came all the way back and beat Penn State in the 4th quarter. That's what championship teams do, right? No. Championship teams don't get diced for 300-plus yards. Not my rule. That's your rule. Isn't that the rule that you held Tennessee to? Tennessee wasn't allowed to get diced by opposing offenses. But when Ohio State does it, well, you know, they didn't play well for 3 quarters, but they played well when it counts. You didn't play by those rules with Tennessee, but for Ohio State, we got to make those freaking rules, right? No, I'm irritated right now. I'm irritated by the freak show that we just saw at the shoe. Because at the end of the day, this is unacceptable, and we as Buckeye fans should not put up with it or accept it. And Buckeye fans, you're part of the problem. You guys make excuses. You're homers. You guys sit here and continue to make excuse after excuse after excuse. Ohio State has been poor defensively for a while. I'm laughing hysterically on social media right now, seeing Buckeye fans who are actually, I'm surprised by what I saw. You're surprised? What are you surprised about? Penn State, who's one of the worst passing teams in football, threw for 300 yards against this amazing improved defense from Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles took all those amazing defensive principles from the Big 12, by the way, and brought them over here, and what? That looked very similar to what we've been calling out the Big 12 for years. Let teams who have no business throwing on you, throw on you. Letting teams who have no business running on you, run on you. Seems pretty on script to me. Good job, Jim Knowles. You came in, they brought you in to do exactly what you're supposed to do, which was exactly what you were doing in the Big 12. Congratulations. I'm irritated. This is unacceptable. Not just the losing back-to-back. You could lose. You could lose in this series. You could lose in this rivalry, if you will. But you can't get blown out back-to-back years in the same fashion. This is unacceptable. Penn State threw for 300 yards against Ohio State a few weeks ago. I called it out. All of you said I'm just being a hater. I'm a sports talk show host, so I'm just stirring the pot, right? I'm just stirring the pot. Heaven forbid we use common sense and say, yeah, maybe there's some flaws with Ohio State's defense. Penn State should not have been able to throw on us. Oh, but you know what? Great 4th quarter. Let's ignore the 3 bad quarters and just, put the 1 4th quarter in the back of our memory bank because we're living in a safe space. Give me a break. But we're not done there. Then we get to my favorite game of the year. The Excuse Bowl. I mean, if you want to talk about an Excuse Bowl, if there was ever one, Northwestern. Yes, there was some wind in Chicago. It's the Windy City, right? There was some wind in Chicago. What in the blue blank did the wind have to do with Ohio State giving up 200-plus rushing yards to Northwestern? I'll wait. Did the wind pick up their running backs and move them 10, 15 yards a carry and drop them? Or did Ohio State just not tackle? Or did Ohio State just not, you know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? Did they not pursue the ball? No, Ohio State was poor against Northwestern, a horrible and embarrassingly bad football team. But you guys blamed it on the wind. The wind may have been why C.J. Stroud and the passing offense just totally disappeared, but that has nothing to do with why Ohio State couldn't run the football against Northwestern and why they couldn't stop the run against Northwestern, who also, by the way, played in the same damn wind. But I was a hater. You guys called me a hater. You called into the Justin Kinder Show with Kev Nash weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m. on 1410 ESPN Radio. Right now, you probably don't like me too much. That's totally fine, because the one thing about Buckeye fans that you guys absolutely hate is you guys hate common sense. You guys hate having facts used against you. I called it out against Northwestern. I called it out against Penn State. You called me a hater. You said I didn't understand how the wind worked. I didn't understand how Ohio State dominated Penn State. No, they didn't. But I said, that's fine. I said this all year long. You can get away with playing the way Ohio State does against poor Big Ten teams. The Big Ten is a joke. It is horrifically bad. I've been saying that from the beginning. This is not me making excuses. That's not what I do. I'm using facts. The Big Ten is horrendous. So when you have deficiencies, when you commit a lot of boneless penalties, right? Boneheaded penalties, you can get away with that against bad Big Ten teams. When you get torched defensively over and over and over, you can get away with that against Maryland because their defense is horrendous and C.J. Stroud and company could take advantage of it. You can't do that against good teams. So every time I kept bringing it up, I remember when I put out my first rankings, which, by the way, I don't have a top 25 vote. No one gives a rip who I am, but I put out the Justin Kinder top 10. I don't have Ohio State where you guys want, and my God, you guys lose your mind. Ohio State, in my opinion, I had Michigan ahead of Ohio State in every one of my rankings that I put out this year. I'm not doing this whole I told you so thing, but I just thought Michigan looked more consistent and looked more efficient all season long, regardless of the bad opponents. Ohio State played a crap schedule as well, okay? And they were vastly inconsistent. They weren't good against a bad. Notre Dame is not terrible now, but they were really, really bad to start the season. They lost to Marshall. Ohio State struggled with Notre Dame to start the season. My goodness, folks. I'm sorry. I'm fired up right now. I'm just tired of the excuse making. I am tired of everyone continuously putting their Buckeye blinders on and continuing to make excuse after excuse. Let's be clear. And by the way, Justin Kinder with you here, 1410 ESPN Radio, 92.9 Jack FM. I'm not mad that Ohio State lost. Have you ever had that emotional talk with your significant other? It's not what you said, it's how you said it. It's not that you lost, it's how you lost. You didn't lose to Michigan. You got your ass kicked against Michigan. You got destroyed by Michigan. That's the problem. That is the problem. Ryan Day, this isn't let's fire Ryan Day. I think that's a vast overreaction. But let's be clear. Lincoln Riley was very, very smart for jumping ship from Oklahoma. Because it took about 2 or 3 years for Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma post the Bob Stoops days. Once Lincoln Riley built a roster completely of his own, which was very similar to what Ryan Day has done, it is offensive dependent, not reliable on defense. Lincoln Riley was killing it at quarterback. He's killing it at wide receivers, offensive line, running back. Very similarly to what Ryan Day is doing at Ohio State. Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. Right? That's what Ryan Day is known for. When we get to the offseason, when we have nothing else to talk about, and I know better than anybody, I have a sports talk radio show in the middle of the offseason when there's nothing else going on. The only thing that we get really excited about is, man, look at Ryan Day and the coaching staff. They got another 5-star running back. They got another 5-star quarterback. Oh my God, look, they have Quinn Ewers, they have CJ Stroud, they have Kyle McCord. I mean, they collect top 5-star quarterbacks like Pokemon cards. That we brag on. This is why I get so sick of National Signing Day and all these other things, because Buckeye fans, we sit here and we brag about how great we are. Look at all the talent that we have. And then when we struggle to beat Northwestern, the wind. When we give up 300-plus passing yards to Penn State, we played a one good fourth quarter. Then when we lose to that team up north, now everyone's shocked and surprised. It took 13 weeks for you guys to realize that maybe Ohio State's defense is not that good. I've been telling you guys that since the very beginning. To expect a defensive coordinator to come in and take over one of the worst defenses in history of Ohio State and all of a sudden just snap a finger and all of a sudden they're good again? No, it doesn't work that way. And it didn't work that way. And they got exposed today. And the only positive thing about what happened today is, Buckeye fans, I guess we might know who our quarterback is next year, because if I'm an NFL team, I don't want anything to do with CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, you could throw a ball to a wide open guy. Cool. A lot of quarterbacks can do that. Check down Charlie today. Unbelievable. How many times did he have 5 yards, 6 yards right in front of him? All he had to do was move those freaking legs to go pick up a first down, but he's not physically tough enough to take a hit to go risk picking up that first down. Ohio State was up. They took that 10-3. They should have been up 14-3. They ended up going up 10-3 because instead of rushing the 4 yards that was directly in front of him, he chose to just throw it away. And then Ohio State ended up coming away with the field goal there, going up 10-7. And I remember we were at Submarine House for our pregame show. We stayed into the first half. I remember pointing it out there, screaming about it. Soft. I'm sorry. I know my job is to sit here and get your reaction, but my reaction, there's mics in front of me, got a little carried away. But here's the deal. It's our very first Buckeye expanded postgame show right here on 92.9 Jack FM and 1410 ESPN Radio. The phone lines are open. For our listeners on 1410 ESPN Radio, 92.9 Jack FM, it's going on 5 o'clock. We have about 10, 15 minutes left. I want to hear what you have to say. The phone lines are open. We're going to step away for a few. We're going to get to your calls on the other side. 518-1410. 518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. Your thoughts on what we just witnessed Ohio State for the first time since 1999 and 2000, losing back-to-back games against that team up north. Ohio State, number 2 team in the country, losing to the number 3 team in the country, 45-23, your final from the shoe. You're listening to the WING 92.9 Jack FM expanded Buckeye postgame coverage. We'll step away for a few of the phone lines. We'll get to your reaction when we come back.
Well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job?
And Max. Travis Kelce, when you start to look at the tight end positions historically, he's just like...
Meet Joe A,
Hi.
Joe B,
Hello.
and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect, support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
I always wanted to learn Spanish, but I never thought I'd have the time. Then I discovered Babbel.
Babbel's lessons are fun. They only take like 10 or 15 minutes, and in 3 weeks, presto, you're starting to speak another language, like magic.
I love that Babbel's lessons aren't just robots talking. They're voiced by native speakers, so you get the pronunciation just right.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than
Babbel.
Babbel.
Babbel. Go to babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
So I switched to Boost Mobile and got this free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone.
Why do you think they call it the Galaxy?
Maybe because the Samsung Galaxy A23 has a huge screen, and galaxies are huge gravitationally bound systems of stars rotating around a supermassive black hole.
And the phone is free?
When you switch to Boost Mobile.
Cool. You lost me at gravitationally bound.
Switch to Boost and get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power. Limited time offer while supplies last. New customers only. Excludes tax. 1 device offer per line. Only available on certain networks. 5G not available everywhere. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
This week at Staples, save 60% on...
Thanks for your business this year.
Save 60% on...
Happy holidays, Nana.
Save 60% on...
You are cordially invited.
Right now at Staples, you can save 60% on custom printed holiday cards and invitations. So you can say, thanks for a great year. Happy holidays. Or come on over, all for less. For everything you need printed this holiday, go to Staples, the working and learning store. In-store and online. Ends 12/3. Exclusions and restrictions apply.
Justin Kinner back with you here on Dayton's radio home of the Ohio State Buckeyes, 92.9 Jack FM, 1410 ESPN Radio. The number 2 team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes, go down at home at the Shoe against that team up north, the number 3 team in the country. The final score 45-23. Donovan Edwards, running back for Michigan. He has 471 total yards on the season. Guess how many of those yards he had today? 216. Unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like 400. And by the way, Donovan Edwards, good for him. Because for 2 decades, we watched Ohio State players step up when we weren't expecting them to and make names for themselves. Donovan Edwards just made a name for himself today. Okay, Cornelius Johnson will go down in the record books for that team up north for his humongous performance. Star wide receiver for Michigan, or maybe not star wide receiver, but he had 4 catches for, 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. Guys like Cornelius Johnson, guys like Donovan Edwards, those were the Chris Olaves of the world over the years, right? Like, how many guys did we see step up that we weren't expecting to against that team up north that just absolutely dominated? Well, guess what? For 2 straight years, we haven't had that. And Michigan's been able to capitalize on both. That's what's fascinating by this. We're live on Facebook, by the way, the Justin Kinder Show with Kev Nash Facebook page. So go and check out the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page. You can jump in on the conversation there. Mark Smith, he calls me out here and says, but it's not a rivalry. Keep spewing that crap, Kinner. He's mad at me because I said, first of all, in the heat of things, I said it's not a rivalry. It's not what I meant. It's definitely a rivalry. What I said was to be the number one, to be the greatest rivalry of all time. I think we need to raise our standards a bit. There's been no competitive balance for going on 2 decades, and you want me to label it as the greatest rivalry of all time. This is before, of course, Michigan goes on to win back-to-back games against Ohio State. And Michigan may be well on their way to going back to the college football playoff for the 2nd straight year. But no, I'm not going to admit that I was wrong there, champ. I'm not going to sit there and back off of anything that I've said at this point. Am I wrong? I wasn't wrong for anything that I talked about. I mean, congratulations, Michigan. You just tied Purdue for the most wins over Ohio State since 2000. Good for you. I mean, give me a break. So, anyways, more reaction on Facebook. We go. Richard DeAndre on Facebook says, Ohio State defense has been trash all year. An excellent team just exposed it for what it really is. I don't even know if it's trash, but I do know that all this talk, this is what I kept saying, is a lot of Buckeye fans, they kept, really kind of just going crazy with the whole Jim Knowles. Look how great of a job he's doing. And I said, I mean, he's doing his job. He was brought into Columbus to obviously improve the defense from a season ago, right? He was brought in to improve the bad defense from last season. He was brought in and he improved the defense. But you guys got to understand something. Just because you improve the defense, it doesn't mean that you have a good defense. For those of you who don't know me, I am 5'5". If I wake up tomorrow and I'm 5'7", that doesn't make me tall. So Ohio State improving their bad defense from last year to not as bad this year. Just because your defense isn't as bad as last year, it doesn't make you a good defense. I'm 5'5". If I wake up tomorrow at 5'7", I'm taller than I was yesterday, but I'm not tall. Your defense was better than it was last year, but they're not good. And I'm only saying this not because, they just played poorly today. They've been playing poorly all season. They just got bailed out because they play in an embarrassingly bad conference. The Big Ten is garbage. The Big Ten is trash. And Ohio State I don't know if they didn't get exposed today, folks. They've been getting exposed for a couple of weeks. Northwestern rushed for over 200 yards against them. People were more focused on the fact that C.J. Stroud played poorly because of the wind against Northwestern that we totally forgot about the fact that, hey, shouldn't we be paying attention to the defense that just gave up 200-plus yards against Northwestern, who averaged 113 rushing yards per game, and you doubled that? Maybe we should focus on that. And it wasn't just giving up yards on the ground. I mean, we watched a very average quarterback, an average average passing attack in Penn State throw at ease against Ohio State, 300-plus yards. But then today when Cornelius Johnson, I was watching the game with a bunch of friends, and I kept hearing all my friends say, how does he end up wide open? Cornelius Johnson, what the heck is happening? I'm like, have you not been watching Ohio State all season? This is what they've been doing. They've just been doing it against bad teams. Now that they're doing it against a better, more well-coached team, now they're getting torched for it, where they were just getting exposed. They've been getting exposed for weeks, folks. This isn't new. Ohio State didn't just, they weren't good before and bad now. They've been bad all season. They just haven't faced anyone that's worth the damn to kind of press them. 518-1410 to the phones we go. We got Doug. Doug, welcome in, sir. How are you? You're live on 92.9 Jack FM and 1410 ESPN Radio.
Hey, I'm doing all right. And I listen to you every day. And I've been hearing what you've been saying because I've been having those same arguments. Now, people just say I try to hate on Ohio State, but I've been betting on Ohio State all year long. But I've been betting more so because the teams that they play are so bad, more so than how good they are. Now, they got good receiving core, they got a good quarterback, but it's heightened by the competition. Now, we watched them play Iowa, and you've seen the game the same way I've seen it. But
Yep.
the score didn't indicate that because they ended up winning by 20 or 30 points. And everybody looked at it and said, well, they couldn't have played too bad or they wouldn't have won by so much. But they didn't play good. Remember, Iowa gave them the ball about 5 times in their own possession. Ohio State couldn't get a yard on Iowa, and they ended up kicking a bunch of field goals. Eventually, they wore Iowa down and beat them pretty bad. But it wasn't because of anything that they did. It was about how bad Iowa's offense was. And then the same way with the Northwestern game. You ain't no way Northwestern should run on you, and you are Ohio State and they're Northwestern. And so the thing I thought was, if Penn State, Iowa, and Northwestern can do to Ohio State on both sides of the ball, which they kind of stopped them offensively, but the score didn't indicate it. But if you watch the game without an Ohio State biased eye, you'd have said, "Dang, man, they doing what they need to do to us." And I couldn't see how they could possibly beat Michigan because I know Michigan on all phases of football is better than Iowa, Northwestern, and Penn State.
Yep.
And so I just couldn't see how that. Now, and Justin, I'm going to have to get on you a little bit for this because although you pointed this stuff out all year long, and you was true, although you was a Ohio State fan, the last thing I heard you say on the air was Ohio State was going to blow Michigan out.
Oh, no. And look, I'm going to admit that. And Doug, thank you for the call. I know we have Michael. I think Michael and Justin coming up on hold. We'll get you guys coming up in just a moment. But Doug, you are 1,000,000% right. I predicted Ohio State to blow out Michigan. Because at the end of the day, bigger, faster, stronger. That's Ohio State. If you look at the recruiting classes, you look at the players, you look at the depth, you look at the fact that Michigan all year, and let's not let them off the hook, okay? Just because they beat Ohio State today does not mean that we're going to let them off the hook for looking like crap last week against Illinois, right? If Ohio State played the way Michigan did against Illinois, we would be furious as Buckeye fans. So I'm not going to sit here and say Michigan's been good all along. No, they haven't been good all along. But they've also had the same advantage that Ohio State has had is while they've been playing like butt most of the season too, they've gone up against opponents that have allowed them to be able to play poorly and get away with it. So 518-1410, I believe this is Justin. Justin, what's up, sir? You're live on 92.9 Jack FM and 1410 ESPN Radio. What's up?
Hey, man, I just want to call in and let you know I was at the game today, and I will tell you, as a Buckeye fan, and I would classify myself with you alongside as a non-biased Buckeye fan and like to call it how it is, I had 3 takeaways from the game. We got outcoached. C.J. Stroud is who he is, unfortunately, which I agree with you on the soft part. There were about 4 different times that you could see if he even makes half of an attempt to try to run it.
Yeah,
it's at least 5 yards, easy. I mean, there was one run that I can't remember exactly. It was early on in the game. He was going to his right, and he kind of lollygagged his decision, and he kind of like jogged almost to get the extra yardage, where he could have had 10+ yards easy. And I just feel bad for any Buckeye fan that thought that the defense was going to be, I don't want to call it the deciding factor, but shame on Ryan Day and his play calling to basically put the defense that's still rebuilding in the crosshairs way too many times, unfortunately.
No, and Justin, man, thank you a ton for the call. I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you, for one, acknowledging the fact that, yes, I am an unbiased Buckeye fan. I'm not, a lot of times people out there, when they hear anyone say anything bad about Ohio State, you're just labeled a hater instead of realizing that I've been a Buckeye fan my entire life. You're allowed to be critical. When you follow something religiously and you feel like you're not allowed to say anything bad about it, you know what that is, right? It's called a cult. Being a fan of Ohio State, this is not a cult. You are allowed to criticize Ohio State. You should be allowed to anyways. And for those of you out there who believe otherwise, I feel bad for you. You have issues and you need to get help because at the end of the day, you should be angry right now. And this is the other thing too. For you Buckeye fans out there that are feeling all chipper and are like, well, they played hard by golly. And Ryan Day, man, he loves this team. We didn't hire him to love this team. Ohio State didn't hire Ryan Day to be good on interviews and to say the right things and to, oh my gosh, Ryan Day. I mean, I've listened to him in the pregame and by golly, Ryan Day, man, he didn't sleep for 364 days this year. He didn't sleep for 364 days because all he could think about was losing to, oh, please. He's a multi-millionaire. He has everything in life that he wants. He has a dream job. And you mean to tell me that he's losing sleep because he lost to Michigan last year? Stop it. The one thing about Urban Meyer that I respect more than anything is the fact that when I hear Urban Meyer talk about the rivalry that is Ohio State-Michigan, I actually believe it. Like, I'm not one, like, I don't mock the rivalry, but I mock the talking points that a lot of the coaches and media do, where when you get hired, you are hired to beat Michigan first and everything else comes second. Stop it. You're hired to win national championships. We had Jim Tressel on the show, I believe 2 years ago, not last year, because, but 2 years ago, we had him on the same week leading up to Michigan. I remember having Tressel on, him and I, we bond over the Cleveland Browns. That's where him and I kind of connect. Him and I are big Browns fans. That's where Jim Tressel and I connect. And I remember asking Jim Tressel, Coach Tressel, Coach, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If you had to pick beating Michigan and not winning a national championship in the season, or winning a national championship and losing to Michigan in the season, which one would you pick? And he did the typical Jim Tressel answer of, well, your goal is to beat Michigan and win a national championship. So he didn't answer it. But the bottom line is if the answer really was beat Michigan and that's the only thing that matters, he would have said that. But he didn't say that because even Jim Tressel, all right, the politician that he is, he knows that, you know what? I know we say it's important to beat Michigan and beat Michigan only, but it's really just about winning a national championship at the end of the day. He knows better. But Jim Tressel understood the importance of the rivalry. Urban Meyer is very genuine about the importance of the rivalry. When I hear Ryan Day speak about the rivalry, I feel like it's very like he's trying to convince himself. It's obvious that this rivalry is not something that he has a firm grasp on. And the rivalry is back in my eyes. Not that I needed to give it its blessing by any means, but I didn't wake up. This is the first time in 20 years that I've woken up and felt nervous about a game against that team up north, because that's how crappy and embarrassingly bad that program's been for that long. 518-1410. Let's go. I think this is Michael. Michael, thanks for holding, sir. You're live. Michael, you there?
Hey, Justin, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Is this Michael?
Can you hear me, Justin?
Yep.
Yes, it is. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Be honest, I don't know where to start. Like you said, Ryan Day does not have a grasp on this rivalry, but I hope this, a lot of Buckeye fans, I'm a diehard, I like to say, are eating their words, the ones who want Michigan to be good, the ones that want Michigan to win every single one of their games except for this one, because this is what happens when that happens.
Yep.
Then you lose 2 years in a row. Ryan Day is 1-2 against Michigan. You are hired to win this game and every other game. And Urban Meyer was 7-0. Ryan Day, you're 1-2. What are you going to do? You were out everything by Jim Hairball today.
And by the way, you're allowed
out game plans.
Michael,
ahead,
in my opinion, no, don't apologize. I'm very bad. I interrupt people. That's a flaw on my end. So my apologies. But you're allowed to, I shouldn't say you're allowed to lose. That's not true. Because if they lost by 3 today, I would still be upset. But the bottom line is to get blown out at the shoe. Last year they got beat up and they got overpowered, but we knew how bad that defense was. That's not an excuse, but we acknowledged it. But this year we spent 13 weeks convincing ourselves that this was a national championship level team. And then we tried convincing everybody else that Michigan, well, they played Colorado State. They played Hawaii. They barely beat Illinois. This team is garbage. And then they punch us in the mouth and it's like, no, we got to eat it. We have to accept that. And that's what I'm doing. I just think we have to be more realistic as Buckeye fans. I know fan is short for fanatic and all that stuff, but man, the homerism at times that blinds people from common sense when it comes to this stuff. I don't think Michigan is as good as what they were today, but I don't think Ohio State's as bad as what they were today either. But Michigan wanted it more, and that pains me to say.
Yeah, it's you game plan to stop Blake Corum. Okay, he's not 100%, so he barely played. But then you let J.J. McCarthy basically play jackpot all day with Jim Knowles' defensive play calling. So that's a problem. We need to fix it. And if they're not the right guys to get it done, I mean, Ryan Day, obviously, he's not going to get fired. I mean, He has won a ton of games here, but I would say that seat should be getting pretty hot. And if he loses to Jim Harbaugh again, then I think it's time to go and make a change.
Well, keep in mind, last year, there was a good chance. I mean, so Ohio State lost. They got blown out in the national championship game in January of 2021. And then they lost to Oregon.
His game planning terrible.
Yeah, then they lost to September. Then they got blown out by Alabama in January of 2021. Then they got blown out by Oregon at the shoe in September of 2021. Then they got beat by Michigan and blown out by Michigan in November of 2021. And we were all a little nervous about Utah because of how explosive they were in that Rose Bowl. But imagine if he would have lost to Utah in the Rose Bowl, which was very, realistic. And then this, we're talking about 4 losses in a 1-year calendar span. That's not Ohio State football. It's just not. I'm not calling for his head, but the seat needs to be hot. But at least last year, Michael, like when things went bad, we at least were like, you know what? They were bad defensively. Ryan Day will figure it out. He'll go get a defensive coordinator, and then everything will be solved. But here we are a year later with that defensive coordinator, and it's the same result and the same questions we had a year ago. So I am a little concerned.
Yes, me too, sir. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, take care. I appreciate you. All right, 518-1410, 518-1410. Also, by the way, one thing I do like admitting when I'm right about stuff, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm wrong about a lot. I'm not, you could say, oh, God, I can't believe he's an I told you so person. I'm an I told you so person, not because I think I'm right all the time. It's because I'm wrong a lot. So when I do get to do the whole I told you so thing, it's not because I think I'm right all the time. It's because, oh, thank God, I finally got something right. So that's where I'm at with this. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Toledo, when he went out, and I said, Ohio State, they need him back, and if they don't get him back, they're not winning a national championship. This offense, yes, you could argue that, wouldn't it have mattered if he was out there or not today? They couldn't get him in the ball. Jackson Smith-Njigba is a difference maker against teams that they need to beat. You could beat the Iowas of the world without Jackson Smith-Njigba. You could beat Northwestern. You could beat Maryland. You could beat Penn State. You can beat Rutgers. You could beat Indiana. You can beat an embarrassingly bad Notre Dame team. You can beat a lot of bad teams in college football without Jackson Smith-Njigba. But the one thing I've been saying since all the way back in September heading into October was, yeah, I think it's a big deal. Remember we on the Justin Kinner show with Kev Nash kept saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a big deal is it that they don't have Jackson Smith-Njigba? Every one of you told me I was a hater because I said, well, they're not winning a damn thing if they don't have him. This offense today, check down Charlie with CJ Stroud. Marvin Harrison Jr. is, by the way, an amazing talent. I don't think he's not amazing because he had a bad game today, but how much of that was CJ Stroud? The passing game had a lot of issues today. Jackson Smith-Njigba would have been a big-time difference maker, especially on the field with Mbuka, Marvin Harrison Jr., Stover, you got that in your hands. I know it was knocked out. The defender had a good angle on it. But you got to catch that dang thing. This is the game. All right, folks. David Shaw, the Michigan fan, says, was it the weather's fault? Shaw, you're a Michigan fan, and you're the most unlikable person I know right now because you've been picking Ohio State to win since the beginning of the season. Even when I released my poll, I said Michigan should be ahead of Ohio State because they've been more consistent than Ohio State. And Shaw, this Michigan fan, some weird Michigan fan, calls into my show and says, oh, no, Ohio State's going to wipe the field with them. And then he's wrong. His team ends up winning, although he predicted them to get the butt swept. And now he's talking smack to me because he was wrong. Michigan fans, I'm telling you, I know you've been getting your brains beat in for 22 years now, but you're acting a little silly. You guys don't even know how to handle this. All right, folks, that's it for us. I appreciate each and every one of you. We normally don't do an expanded post-game show, but I wanted to jump on with you guys today. Emotions are high. Ohio State, for the first time since 1999 and 2000, they lose to that team up north. Unfortunate. The final score, 45-23. Number 2 Ohio State goes down to number 3 Michigan. I did have a question that was asked regarding is there still a path to the college football playoff for Ohio State? Not unfortunately. Fortunately, there still is. But some of you are saying you don't even want to see them get to the playoff. You don't want to see them get to the playoff because you're afraid that they might get beat up on again. But, I heard in the post game, and by the way, I'm tired of hearing that. Paul Keels and the Buckeye broadcasting team, I love them to death. But this was as homer of a take as I've ever heard. Well, most people say that going to the Rose Bowl is not a big deal, but that's still that's an honor. Stop it. Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, and this entire program, they don't hit the recruiting trail to say, hey, guys, at the very least, we'll get a Rose Bowl. No. People go to the Ohio State University to win national championships, to get to the college football playoff. And Ohio State's about to miss the playoff again, potentially. USC, Notre Dame in action tonight. If USC wins, that spells trouble for Ohio State because the Pac-12 then has an opportunity. But if Notre Dame wins and USC and the Pac-12 is out of it, now you have Georgia at number 1, the SEC champion. Michigan's going to be number 2. TCU, Big 12 champion at 3. And now you got a 1-loss Ohio State team against potentially the Big 10 champion of Michigan going up against a 2-loss LSU team, a 2-loss USC team. I'm just saying, look out. And by the way, for all of you out there that do want to scream for Ohio State being in the college football playoff picture, you're also going to invite Alabama into that conversation as well. So we'll see. All right. Thank you, everyone. That wraps it up for us. Tomorrow, we'll be at Frickers in Miamisburg. If you want a chance to meet former Buckeye Keith Byers, Keith Byers was at the shoe today. I'm actually nervous to sit next to him for an hour and a half tomorrow morning at Frickers in Miamisburg. The Sunday morning tailgate show presented by Frickers, live at Frickers in Miamisburg. It's the Sunday morning tailgate show every Sunday throughout Super Bowl Sunday. Keith Byers, former Buckeye NFL Pro Bowl running back, we do the Sunday morning tailgate show at the Frickers in Miamisburg. Same Frickers, same location every Sunday, 11:30 to 1 p.m. So come on out. I'm nervous. I need you guys to come out. I'm nervous. I'm afraid to sit next to Keith Byers for 2 hours tomorrow and talk about this game. I'm a little nervous. I'm unprepared for this, to be quite honest with you. I need witnesses. He might kill me. I don't know. He might be a little angry. He might be a little upset. And I was very aggressive on the air today. Watch how soft I am tomorrow on the air. Watch how many excuses I make tomorrow, because I'm not going to make Keith Byers angry. Are you kidding me? No. But Buckeye fans, come on out. Frickers in Miamisburg tomorrow morning. The Buckeye for the Sunday morning tailgate show, of course. We'll have all the reaction to what a wild day it's been in college football. One more time, Ohio State, number 2 team in the country. They lose to the number 3 team in the country, that team up north. 45-23 your final from the shoe. There will be no Big Ten championship game on 1410 ESPN Radio and 92.9 Jack FM next Saturday. Now we sit back and wait and see if the Buckeyes will be a part of the college football playoff, or if we start making our travel arrangements for Pasadena. Until next week, or until next time, I should say, this has been our expanded Buckeye pregame show on Dayton's radio, home of the Buckeyes, 92.9 Jack FM and 1410 ESPN Radio. To be involved in all that we do, head to Facebook. Search The Justin Kinner Show on Facebook. That's where you can catch me and my co-host Kev Nash and Keith Byers and others throughout the week from 3 to 6 p.m. I urge you to follow that Facebook page and our ESPN Dayton YouTube channel. Have a great night, everybody.
Hi, this is Eddie Sorrell, Body Shop Manager at Germain Honda of Beaver Creek. Our technicians have over 125 years of total experience. That means we can repair your vehicle correctly and efficiently. So when you need a dependable body shop, we're here. And we repair all makes and models with new state-of-the-art equipment to get you back on the road quickly. Plus, we offer loaner cars during service and free estimates. Stop by and see us. Germain Honda of Beaver Creek, State Route 35, just east of 675 between Xenia and Beaver Creek.
Need a U.S. passport? We can help. Hi, this is Mike Foley, your Montgomery County Clerk of Courts. Visit one of our convenient auto title locations in Huber Heights.